And so we labeled it the Programmable Mind. And actually, Nikki, you want to take over from here? And
Yeah, I think the thing is with the human brain is, from a very young age, we start off learning things. And when we first start sort of embark on a learning process, it's quite complex, it's quite a difficult thing. And the human brain actually consists of about 100 billion neurons that are all connected together. Neurons are basically brain cells, so they're all connected together. And when we embark on a learning process, it becomes quite a difficult thing because we're trying to create pathways. We sort of connect the neurons together. There's like a tiny gap between each neuron called a synapse. It's a tiny gap, and each time we repeat a process of something, hence the learning process, each time we repeat an activity or we repeat the process of assimilating some sort of knowledge, we strengthen that pathway. So it almost becomes in itself a building block process. Every time we assimilate knowledge or we perform an activity, it's like an electrical energy, a current that goes off. And each time we repeat that process, what happens is we build up a strong pathway. It's almost like we build a strong block. So then subsequently after that, we repeat the process and it becomes easier and easier, whereas at the beginning it was very difficult. Also, the programming that we have within our brains through various scenarios, obviously as we go through our young life and we go through the institution of school, we learn and program in that way. We also, there's that whole thing of the nurturing part of our home life and our parenting and everything that we assimilate around us, everything that we absorb from a very young age, and particularly from the ages of 2 to 7, which are often referred to as the formative years. We absorb a lot, which shapes some of our programming that then creates what we become as an adult, or shapes our belief systems and our views on life in general. So how we communicate with people and how we do things. But the thing is, it doesn't matter because we can change that. We can always learn new things when we know how the process works. It doesn't matter what programming we have set up in our brain from individual circumstances. We can always change that. We can always learn new things once we understand the process.
I was reading up, refreshing my mind on Bruce Lipton, and he kind of points out that the biggest problem is that people don't believe they could change their minds and their beliefs very easily. And this kind of happens when you're in those formative years where the brain is so malleable.
Absolutely.
And he kind of suggests or puts forward that if we teach our children in the first 6 years of their lives that they, could change their minds and thus their bodies and empower a shift for love or vitality, it could come easier. Because that's a lot of the struggle when you're an adult, and where you see where a lot of people are like, oh, this is just the way I am, but they're not fully all right with the way they am, but they use that as kind of like this blanket statement that's like, oh, I can't really change, and this is just how it is, and they just kind of slug through life or whatever. But